Let's do a self-exploration meditation on the three planes. For this self-exploration, you will need a fruit. This is for chapter 13 of Atma Nirvriti. Let's explore and find out in which plane does knowing of smelling happen. Let's take the stand of an Advaitin at Srishti Drishti Vad level. Srishti Drishti Vad means creation precedes consciousness level. At this level, there is still duality. Let's see how an Advaitin at this level moves from duality towards non-duality. Smell your fruit. A fruit is a so-called gross object. It exists in the gross plane, the plane of the senses. This means it exists in time and space. The fruit has length, width, and height. This is the space aspect. It is perishable, thus time-bound. This is the time aspect. The plane of the senses is bound by time and space. The fruit that exists in the plane of the senses is bound by time and space. Ask yourself this question. What aspect within me is experiencing the smell of the fruit? The fruit exists in a plane bound by space and time. The sense organ, called the nose, exists at the same plane as the fruit. But the sense organ, called the nose, is not conscious. That which is not conscious cannot know. The nose cannot know the smell of the fruit. The nose is not the one that is experiencing or knowing the fruit. Then who or what is experiencing the smell? Is it the mind? The mind exists in a plane bound only by time. The fruit exists in a plane bound by time and space. The plane of the mind is different from the plane of the fruit. The mind can never come down to the plane of the senses to know a gross object like the fruit or its smell. Therefore, the mind is not the one that is experiencing or knowing the smell of the fruit. Then, who is experiencing the smell? Is it the witness consciousness? The witness consciousness, or the sense of I, or the I principle, cannot come down to the level of the mind to witness thoughts. Neither can it come down to the plane of the senses to experience objects like the fruit or its smell. The level of the mind is bound by time. The level of the senses is bound by time and space. The witness exists at a level which is beyond time and space. The witness cannot come down to the level of the mind or the senses. Therefore, the witness is not the one that is experiencing or knowing the smell of the fruit. Then where does experiencing or knowing or understanding happen? In our own personal experiential recognition, it is clear that there is no proof of the existence of a gross object like the fruit or its smell. There is only proof of the existence of perception of smell. But perception is nothing but thought, a tangible thought. A tangible thought means a thought that can be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and touched. When the Advaitin comes to the Drishti, Srishti, Bad level, where consciousness precedes creation, he recognizes that everything is simply a projection, a projected thought which is tangible. It is like a hologram, except that it can be heard, smelled, tasted, and touched in addition to being seen. Examine your fruit carefully. Doesn't it seem like a hologram that can be smelled, tasted, touched in addition to being seen? This is the true meaning of an inside-out perception. It is an inside-out, tangible thought. A tangible thought has been labeled as the gross object called fruit, along with its fragrance. Examine the tangible thought called the fragrance of the fruit carefully. It is like a hologram. Does this fragrance thought actually hold a gross object called the fruit? No. Does this fragrance thought hold another fruit thought in it? Can one thought exist in another thought? No. Thought can hold neither the gross object nor a subtle object. Thought is objectless. But objectlessness is the definition of consciousness only. An objectless thought is not a thought at all. Then what is it that is known? When the Advaitin reaches the level of Ajatavada, he recognizes that the fragrance which is supposed to have been perceived loses its form and becomes smelling itself. Fragrance is nothing but smelling. Smelling is nothing else but knowing. When the so-called object comes into the plane of knowledge, it loses its objectivity and becomes knowledge itself. It becomes one with the knower. The knower, the known, and knowledge are one single screen of knowingness. Knowingness is consciousness itself. So what is consciousness knowing? Consciousness is knowing itself. How? Because gross object does not exist. The thought of the gross object also does not exist. The witness of the gross object or the thought, called the witness consciousness or I principle, or the I sense or the I thought, also does not exist. Consciousness is knowing itself. There is nothing outside of consciousness. Consciousness is knowing itself means it is knowing reality. Knowing is always directed to the reality. The object of knowledge is always the reality, if reality can ever be called an object. Therefore, it is only the reality that is known in every case. You are consciousness. What you are smelling is nothing but consciousness. There is in effect only consciousness. This is the meaning of absolute reality, where there is only a single screen or a single ocean of the light of consciousness. In that, the knower, known, and knowledge are nothing but a single field of oneness. That is the meaning of absolute reality. Here, the witness, the mind, the body, and the world are all nothing but the single light of consciousness. There is no two. This is the absolute reality. The absolute is. The absolute is unborn, ajata, unborn, and it is undying. The absolute simply is. It simply is.